الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة ويا عبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. قال تعالى في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فأقم وجهك للدين حنيفا فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها لا تبديل لخلق الله ذلك الدين القيم ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
One distinctive feature of a human being is the inquisitive mind that he has been capable with, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him. The sense of curiosity that has been instilled in a human being. This sense of curiosity, of course, gets us to some difficult and fundamental questions sometimes. For example, who are we? Where did we come from? And where we are ending up to be? The life that we are living today, the life in this planet, does it have any meaning and any purpose? Who has created this life? Is there an intelligent mind behind this creation? This universe, does it have an owner or not? These are the questions that goes through the brains and minds of every human being, whether he's religious or non-religious, whether he believes in faith or he's godless, who does not believe in any type of faith. But these questions boggles the majority of people. Now, the majority of a human being have somehow realized the answer. They know that there is some sort of intelligent mind behind this universe. A superpower, a super intelligent power that have created this universe and lies behind this universe. As an evidence, brothers and sisters, if you travel to ancient cities, what do you see in ancient cities? You see ruins. Those ruins belong to temples and house of worships, more than markets and plazas and schools. What does that tell you? For example, when you go to Egypt and you see the Luxor. Luxor is a temple. Go to Greece, you see the Parthenon on top of the Acropolis in Athens. Go to Damascus, you see Palmyra. You go to England and you see the henge stones. Those are all temples and house of worships for people who believed in spirituality, believed in the life after this physical life. There is some entity, some powerful entity that governs this universe behind this life. Sometimes they hit the target and they believe in the right entity, and sometimes they miss the target. But the reality is that this instinct lies beneath every single man and woman. That this universe should have some certain intelligent power behind it. Therefore, you see, the idol worshippers have taken the wrong path. But in reality, they were seeking this power and searching for this power. The Almighty Allah, in this ayah that I recited at the beginning, alludes to this fact, that He has instilled this instinct for searching for truth and searching for the true ultimate power behind this universe is within every single man and woman. The ayah says, فَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ حَنِيفًا فِطْرَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا. Set your face straight to the religion purely that God has instilled in the people. The straightforward feature that gets you to your Lord, to the ultimate power behind this universe. These are the majority of people. Yet there are minorities that are considered to be godless, meaning that they do not believe in any sort of spirituality behind the physical life that they are in. How old are they? They are old as the history of this planet. Will Durant, the historian, in his book, in his encyclopedia, The History of Civilization, narrates that the early tradition of Buddhists, they rejected the notion of God or deities or the ultimate power behind this universe. They rejected this, the believing in superpower, supernatural powers. There were some philosophers back in the 5th and 6th centuries after the Christ that didn't believe in the supernaturals. Socrates, the great philosopher in Greece, was accused of being atheist. But all of those were scattered until the time of Renaissance. When even in the Islamic history, when you read Islamic history, there are certain scholars, certain scientists, either they were agnostic or atheists. For example, Abu Bakr Muhammad ibn Zakaria Rasi, the great scientist, he tend to not to believe in Allah, not to believe in the entity that created this universe. Another philosopher called Ibn al-Rawandi, a great poet, Abu al-Ala al-Ma'arri. Those are considered to be agnostic. So this notion, this type of thinking was from the very beginning of history. But it gained more importance and became very visible at the time of Renaissance. Why? Because of the turmoils of the Enlightenment. What happened in the Enlightenment, at the age of Enlightenment? Scientific discoveries, mathematical discoveries, and inventions carried out by scientists like Copernicus, Darwin, Newton, has given the framework for such kind of notion and given them credibility that instead of believing in superstitions and believing in supernatural power that have created this universe, we should believe in science, because science gives you all the answers that you want. My topic today will be about discussion about atheism in these few minutes that we will be discussing the subject. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. The word atheist comes from the Latin word or the Greek word atheos, if I am pronouncing it right, which means godless or without God, which is rejection, any notion of belief in the deities or any supernatural power that I have been explaining. But this is a definition for the atheist. But when we look carefully, we see that there are two types of atheism. One, practical one, and the other one is an ideological one. What is the difference? The practical one is someone who is indifferent about spirituality. He tells you, when you ask him about the existence of God, he says that I am living my life as there is no God. I am completely oblivious about God. Whether He exists or not, to me, in my life, in my personal life, I care less whether He exists or He doesn't exist. And I do my functions, my daily activities, and there is no such kind of entities. I want to be a free man. I want to be God, a free person. This is how I am. I am indifferent about these things. I want to be completely free. Do my activities, all kind of activities. You know, my sexual orientation, my financial activities, my social activities, my belief, any type of activity that I would like to do, I do it in regard of the consideration whether there is a God or not. To this person, we call it a practical atheist. And believe it or not, so many Muslims also fall into this category. Why? Because you see so many Muslims and so many who are so-called Shia do not practice, do not do anything. When you tell them, I don't believe in anything. So this type of person is considered to be God-free person. He wants to be free. One day, Al-Imam Musa Al-Kadhim alayhi salam was walking in the alleyways of Baghdad. He overheard a house. From that house, he overheard the big sounds of music and dancing and happy time. Right at that time, a maid came out of this house. The Imam looked at her and told her, صاحب هذا البيت حر أم عبد. The owner of this house is a free man or he's a servant, he's a slave. The maid said, he's absolutely a free man. The Imam said, you are right. If he were not, if he were a slave, then he would have been abiding by the rules of his masters. Because he's a free man, you see what he's been doing. This lady went back again. Inside the house, her owner asked her, well, where you took you too long? She explained to him that she had seen a decent man who asked her whether the owner of this house is a free man or a slave, and she replied that he's a free man. That man realized that this person means something, and this person has to be Musa al-Kadhim. This person, this owner, used to be called Bishr al-Hafi. He ran after the Imam while barefoot. Didn't even have time to wear his shoes and follow the Imam until he catched the Imam and told him, Yabna Rasulullah, I am sorry. I didn't mean to revolt against my Lord. But look, the Imam alayhi salam used this tiny, small sentence to completely change this man. From being a total free man, God a free man, to someone who is a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you look at those atheists, many of them are considered to be practical atheists. Why? Because the minute that they believe in God, then they have to abide by His rules. While they want to be the master of the castle, they want to do their own business according to their own will and desire. Therefore, the easiest way is to deny the existence of God. With these type of people, you cannot have a scholarly discussion. Basically, you need to advise them in the same way that Imam Al-Kadhim alayhi salam advised that person. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. The other type of atheism, it is the ideological one, the theoretical one. Those who deny the existence of God for a reason, whether it's a scientific reason, whether it's a philosophical reason, or whether it's a social reason. For certain reason, because they have evidence, they have a proof, and they bring their proof, they deny the existence of God. That's why we call them the ideological atheist. Why? Again, as I have said, they say that in the past, people used to believe in superstitions, in rumors, because they could not find explanations to the phenomena that took place in this planet. They would attribute it to something unknown, to a supernatural being. But as we dwell and have the details of those phenomena, we find out that science can explain them. Therefore, it's a delusion to believe in God. You know, these currently, in temporary times, those atheists are spearheaded by an evolutionary biologist who's in Oxford. His name is Richard Dawkins. He has written a book called The God Delusion. And he says that anyone who believes in God, that is tantamount to a delusion. You know, become a delusional. Why? Because everything that you want to attribute to this entity, you can find it in science. Science can, the mathematical and scientific methods can explain everything around us. Therefore, there is no need to believe in God. This is their hypothesis. This is what they believe. Now, many of us who have been in college, been in universities, they see that the scientific community, unfortunately, many of those scientific scholars or scientists are very much of that type. They negate the existence of God. Why? They explain this. They say that science can provide very rigorous and, formidable answers. If you carry out your experiments correctly, you collect data, you do the right observations, you hypothesize, you postulate, you do observations and testing, and you refine your data, you will get to the answers. And to believe it or not, they are saying the truth. Science has advanced in the past century or so. We have had so many scientific discoveries based on this scientific method. Using science, using the data that they collected, the observations that they have seen, and the testing that they did, they came with theories and they postulate this theory and turns to be right. And this is how science have advanced. Therefore, they get in trouble, or they get troubled when they know that there are other approaches that tells you the truth about nature without going through scientific method. Therefore, they see faith and religion as a threat to the scientific method. This is their, standard. That's why you see them that they are against science, against religion and faith. Why? Because without any proof, without any scientific data, without any testing in laboratory, faith comes with an answer. What has done great, achievement in that regard was Charles Darwin, the biologist. All of you have heard his name. Back in 1856, when he came up with his theory of evolution, which is called the natural selection. He had a voyage. He took the voyage and came up with a book that is called The Origin of Species. In that book, he hypothesized that the species that are today, that have arrived today at the scene, they all belong to a common ancestor, to a single ancestor. Meaning that a single living cell diverged and proliferated and became more and more, and then diversified until we ended up having so many species that live on the face of this planet. Now, today, the molecular biology and the genetic codes, the DNA genetic codes, can tell you that his hypothesis is somewhat correct based on natural selection and mutations. Random mutations, you end up having so many species on theoretical level. Please pay attention. On theoretical level, what he has said is correct. There is some sort of evolution. The species evolutionize. And based on this fact, those atheists said, okay, then if we believe that this process has taken place, evolution and species started to graduate from one step to another and diverge, then there is no need to believe in creationism There is no need to believe that something or some power has created this universe. What is our answers to this? Please, brothers and sisters, especially the younger generations, those who face so many of their classmates in the schools or in the universities, these are really important points. I will, go through them after your big Allah salawat. We say that science, of course, can tell how the process takes place. But science cannot tell you why the process takes place. There is an ultimate wisdom to that. Science can tell you, for example, a single cell species developed into multiple cell species and then diverged. But why did that happen? Science cannot tell you that. I will give you a simple example. You see the big picture, scientists sometimes miss. You see a boiling water, a kettle. In that kettle, water is boiling. You ask why the water is boiling. A scientist tells you, you want to know why water is boiling? I tell you. When you plug the kettle in the electricity, this electrical energy changes to a kinetic energy. Therefore, it makes the kettle hot. Now the heat transfers to the water, to the liquid. The molecule of the liquid, of the water, become agile, and they start to move and shake, and they start to spread from each other and change to a vapor state. When their vapor pressure matches and becomes equal to the atmospheric pressure, they overcome an entropy that is called vaporization, the entropy of vaporization. Therefore, you start to see bubbles and the water boils. This is why water boils. While you say simply, no. The water is boiling because I want tea. I want to drink tea and coffee. That's the reason why the water is boiling. You see, the scientists go through the process, but does not see the ultimate picture. For what reason is that this water is boiling? Do you see the picture here? Einstein has a beautiful word. You see, you cannot separate between faith and science. You cannot separate between religion and science. Einstein have a beautiful, Albert Einstein? He has a beautiful word. He says that science without religion is lame. Lame cannot walk perfectly. And religion without a science is blind.